Welcome to another tutorial. My voice is a little raspy this morning, so you may have to deal with this. Anyway, we're going to start Project 5, which is the Cupcake Bakery CSS site. The good thing about this is we're going to get a little bit more heavy into CSS. You'll start to understand the difference between a class, a tag, a component selector, and we'll review the pseudo selectors that we did in Project 4 where you changed the links and the Hoover and so on and so forth. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to work a little bit more in the editable regions of a template, and we're going to actually create what's called an editable attribute where you'll be able to change the graphic of a header by changing the class. So let me just review classes. This is actually on page 217. So basically a tag is something like nav, header 1, body, div, section. Those are all predefined tags that are built into HTML. If you change a tag by redefining the CSS, then every tag will be applied that. If you change the color of the text, if you change the size, if you change the text align, everything will be changed. So that's one thing you always keep in mind, that you may have some things that you're not thinking are going to happen all of a sudden change on you. That's why we use sections. That's why we use IDs and other things to make sure that the only thing that gets affected is what is wanted to get affected. Then there's the ID. You can name any tag, any ID. Of course, you want to name it that something that makes sense, like main body, main content, left sidebar, and that will apply the rules only to that particular ID. A compound selector may be like a div with an ID of such and such, or a image that's inside of a div, or a header 1 that's inside of a div. So that would apply only to the H1 tags that are within a div. And then you have the pseudo classes, which are like a::link, a::hover, or Hoover, depending upon where you're from, a::visited. That will affect certain areas of the links. So we'll start right in. We created the site in my earlier video. So you should now be on page 218. And what it tells you is going to happen is you're going to add page-specific background image to the header. So each different page is going to have a different header image. Not saying that's the greatest way of doing it, but it's a way for you to learn how to have an editable attribute. You're going to format the content of individual pages, and you're going to link the weekly update file to the pages, and you're going to create a form. Forms are really a lot easier than you think they are, so don't be intimidated by that. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a class. Now, one thing that's very important to understand, a class is only going to affect elements when they're applied. Creating a class does absolutely nothing. It's the same as putting a container of milk in your refrigerator. Well, until you open it up and drink it, it's of no value other than wherever you got it at Publix, they made money from you and you made a happy cow. So let's go on to number 1, where we're going to open up the design template, which I'm not, again, a big fan, as you've already realized. If I'm not impressed with something that the book says, I will give you my opinion on it. However, we're going to follow the way the book does. I feel a design template is just not a specific name, especially because you might have more than one template in a site. I would call it cupcake template, but because it's already made for us, we're not going to do that. So I'm opening up the design template, and notice that it does have an editable region called page content. You can tell that it's editable because of this little nice blue area over here. Remember, when you go into live view and you actually view it in a web page, you don't see that. You only see that in design view. And of course, you can change the name of it if you want to. However, remember, if you do change the name of it, it could affect other pages. So be very careful before you do that. So we're going to open up the CSS Designer, which is already open for me here. And we have only one CSS file, so we'll click on it to make sure that it's active. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a new selector. Now, we need to physically type this in. Because it's a class, it needs to begin with a period. As soon as you put a period, then Dreamweaver knows that it's a class. So we're going to type something descriptive, which is BKG home. Now, yes, I know it's capital H. Because the book is giving you a capital H, I'm going to type capital H. I recommend that in your project, that everything you type is all lowercase. We're going to press enter, and that creates the class, but it has absolutely nothing in it. So let me go into the style sheet, and you can see down here we've created a class, but it has absolutely nothing in it. That's all of page 219, and it does say to make sure that show set is not selected. So we click on this here. Let's get out of that. Let's click on this, and it's not selected. Remember, if you select it, then it will only show the elements and the properties that have actually been defined in there when we have nothing in there. So the very first thing we're going to do is put a background image, and then I'm not going to click on the no repeat at first, then I will to show you the difference. So it wants us to go to background, which is right here. If you forget which is which, just layout, text, border, background. So I'll click on background, and here's the background image. We can browse to it, and we're already in images. So I'll click on background, and it wants us to find the background home. Now notice that it says /home, /everyday, /custom. Obviously that stands for background, but the point I'm getting at, everything is a dash. There's no dash here and an underscore here. Make sure that whatever you start with, you use consistently. So I recommend that you always use a dash, especially because it's actually easier to type. So we have the back home. And you can look at this and you can see it's actually a gradient. So you can see how it kind of fades out over here, which is important. Now, notice nothing happened. And that's because we have not applied the class to anything. So I'm going to leave this without the repeat. And then I'll go back and put it on over here. So they also tell us if it doesn't appear in the bottom of the CSS Designer to drag it down. It does. If it didn't, just, for instance, if it was here, just drag it down. That is number 6. Number 7 is we're going to place the insertion point in the header element, and then we're going to click on the header tag, and then we're actually going to apply the class. So we can click in here. Remember, since we're in the template, you have full access to everything inside the template. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on header here, and notice it says class none. All I need to do is click the drop down, and it will show you only the classes. Then I'll click background home, and all of a sudden that gets applied. Now notice you have the cupcakes here, and they actually look pretty good. And then you have the gradient out over here, it blends in, and then it repeats again. That means it's going to keep showing the background until it runs out of space. So to eliminate that, you're going to go to the background over here, and this is your background repeat. So what I'll do here is I'll just choose no repeat, and that takes care of that. That looks a lot nicer in there. That was number 8. And we're going to say the file, when prompted, update. Now, the reason why you're going to get that message is because we're saving a template. So make sure that you update all of the files that are associated with it. Here's the log. You can show the log or not show the log. If there's any issues, it will show there. So you can see files were updated and none were denied. So that takes care of number 10 on page 221. Moving on to number 11, and we want to click into CSS, and we're going to look the code. Remember, when we saved the template, we didn't save all the other files that are attached to it. And you can tell what needs to be saved because there's an asterisk. So I'm going to click on this here, and notice the information, background image over here, shows you what it looks like. See how it's gradient off. Now also remember the size, 770 by 321. That's important to always remember that you should try to have your size in accordance with what it's going to fit in. Background image, no repeat, and we'll talk more about that later. So we've now saved that. Now we're going to manually edit the CSS code. I, again, am not thrilled about the way they do it, but it kind of makes sense because we're going to copy and paste instead of doing a lot of manually typing in there, and then we're just going to make the changes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it two different ways, one the way the book does it and one through the CSS designer. Because I really don't want to type a lot of things in there. So I will start over here. It says click and drag from line 116 to 119. So what we're basically doing is creating a class that we're going to apply to all of the pages. So 1, 2, 3. So we should have 3 more pages in here. So the first thing I'm going to do here is change the names. I'm not going to change the image. I'm going to change the names. So the first one is we're going to change it to background every day. So we're going to delete the home and change it to every day. And then the book is going to ask us to delete everything starting with the URL up to this right parentheses, but not the semicolon. So I'll delete that, and now I'm going to type U. And then it automatically fills in URL. Then it gives us browse. And then we can go to the image file, go to backgrounds, and find back every day. And we got that, so that takes care of that. And of course, what I did was put the wrong one in, so let's go back and undo that. Remember, undo is your friend, so we'll do it on the actual right one. Now, I could have just as easily changed this to every day and changed this back to home, but let's do it the right way. Let's get this one here. Type in a U, URL, click on Browse, go to Background every day, and we're good there. All right, so that takes care of that one. So now we're on continuing. We've done number 7, we've done number 8, we've done number 9, we've done 10, and then we've done 11, and we've done 12, and we've done 13. So now we want weekly, custom, and join. So we're going to need to create one more. So we have weekly here. We have custom. And we need one more here. And we have join. All right, so let's go take a look in our CSS designers. Click on styles and notice, let's refresh it over here. And there we have it over here. So we have every day, and we'll go into background, and this gives us every day. But weekly is not going to be correct. So we're going to browse this one over here, and we're going to go to weekly. I personally think it's a little bit easier to do it this way. You can do it whatever way you want. I just wanted to give you a second option on how to do it. And join. That takes care of that. Let's save this file here. Okay, now I did a save all, but it didn't ask to update the files. And the reason is because nothing was changed in the template. Everything that I did was changed in the styles, CSS. All right, so I'm on page 225. I'm going to start with number 1, and this is what I was talking about. So let's go back to the design template, and we'll go into design over here. And we have this nice little cupcake thing over here. That's probably why they called the design template for the project cupcakes, and also says sassy cupcakes. So what can I tell you? So what I'm going to do now, we're going to put the insertion point in the header. Click the header section in the tag selector. Let me show you one thing before I do that, though. Let me open up one of the other files that are inside the template. So we'll just pick one. Let's do the custom cakes. Okay, notice it's still got the cupcakes in there. That's because we have the class applied to it. And then I'm going to try to click in it, and I can't do it. So if I wanted to change and apply the class to there, I cannot do that. Everything has to be done in the design template, or it has to be made in editable region, which we have not done. Now, also, I'm not a big fan. Let's go into design view. You're probably counting how many times I say I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of this on top. There's ways to fix that, but we're not going to go into it. I just don't think it looks professional. I would have put it inside of this, but that's not what this video is about. So let's go back into design, and let's go to number 2, tells us to click inside the header tag over here. So we've clicked inside the header tag, and then we're going to go down here to click the actual header itself. Then we're going to do something we haven't done before. We're just going to click on Tools and Templates, and we're going to choose down here, Make Attribute Editable. That means we're going to make the class editable if we want to, and you'll see how to do that. You actually can't do it inside the file. You'll have to do it from the menu system. It's really very easy. So let's click on that, and I'm now on page 226, number 4, and it's asking us, what do we want to do? Well, we want to make the class editable. So what we have to do is click on Make Attribute Editable, and it basically fills in everything for us that we need to do. Click on OK, and you'll see the actual cupcake disappear. Now you see it, now you don't. It does explain that over here on number 5, but it still, if you go into the actual pages, let's go into index, it's still there. So you go into the code, it's still going to say class equals background home in here. One thing to understand is how easy it is to make changes to your template just by making changes to CSS file or to your actual template file over here. So now we have the template over here. We clicked OK to change place. So now what we're going to do is we're going to open up the other page over there that we want to change in here. We're going to open up the everyday file, which is cupcakes every day. And of course, we have that there in here. We have no way to change it. I can't click in here. I can't change the class. I can't click on header because it's not available for me. If you go into the code view, you look and see it's grayed out. That means you cannot change it. Technically, you can if you copy and paste it and put it into WordPad, save it there. However, when your program starts working and your template is all messed up, think back of trying to do something that it doesn't want you to do. And the next time you make a change, it'll actually overwrite it because it's in a non-editable region. That means whenever you make a change, all the non-editable regions get updated to exactly what's in there. So ignore what I just said. Just wanted to show you there's always a way to beat the system. However, sometimes the system beats you right back. So we have over here, what we're going to do now is, I'm on number 10, and I'm going to click on Edit Templates and Properties. Number 9 just says, show all the ones that are available in the CSS Designer. So we'll click over here, and we'll click on Styles, and you can see all the ones that are available. Let's drag this down here just a bit. And that makes it easy. So if you click on this, you see all the properties that are set, which is there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do on number 10, we're going to choose Edit. So yes, I know you have Insert here, Template, you have Tools, Template. Now we're doing Edit. Welcome to Dreamweaver. That's all I can tell you over here. So we're going to click on Edit and Template Properties, which are right here. And technically, that's what we're actually doing. No template project available because nothing's selected. That's really exciting. And here. So let me see. The issue is I never saved this. Okay, so now you see how to fix something. Let's click on this here and update it. So what I'm getting at, if something does not appear and you know you made a change in the template, go back and check to see if you actually save the template. So let's go back into the cupcakes every day and let's see what it looks like in code view. Now it's kind of a little bit strange over here. It still has it over here as exactly the same over here, class background home, but look what it actually did to the template, which you don't have to worry about, but it made a class, and this is code for Dreamweaver to say, hey, you can make a change over here in the header in the class. That's what that means. Don't ask me to explain it because I don't know, and to be honest with you, I don't care. The only thing I care about it is that it works. Pretty much, I don't care how when you press an H appears, all I care is the H appears. And if you're honest, you are too. All right, so what we're going to do now is let's go back into the cupcakes every day, and let's see if we now have that option. So we're going to go to Edit and Template Properties, and now we have that over here. So now the downside of this here is you need to actually type in the name of the class without the period. I can't answer you why, but that's the way it is. The book will tell you that's the way it is. Doesn't offer you an explanation. And boom. So now that changed to the correct one. If you go into the code, you will now see that the class has changed to background every day. So, of course, we need to save that. And then we're going to do the same thing on number 14. We're going to change weekly, custom, and join. So let's go to our files. Let's go to weekly. Let's go to edit and template problems. And let's change this to BK weekly. Takes care of that. Let's make sure we save it. Then we'll go to custom and join. So here's custom, edit, template properties, custom, that change, save that, and then join. Okay, that takes care of that. Now, one thing I need to address with you that the book is not doing, that I do not like, and in your project, it's extremely important that you do it this way. You need to have a folder that says CSS, and all of your CSS files need to be in there. Also, the only home page that should be in, or the only HTML page that should be in the site directory, the root directory, should be the index. So Cupcakes should be in its own folder, and you can use Cupcakes every day or Cupcakes weekly. Probably I would make a folder called every day and a folder called weekly, and then I would do a folder called update and a folder called join. That's it for this video. I'm going to continue on page 228 on the next one. We're going to talk a little bit more about the float and the clear properties. So have a great day.